Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to the session of Experiential Learning in Science Classroom. On behalf of AIEF, All India Educators Forum, I'm very glad and happy to conduct this webinar in front of you. All right, experiential learning, first of all, what is experiential learning, why it is important, and how to implement it? This whole webinar is designed to cover these three parameters, these three aspects. So when you see the NEP, National Education Policy 2020, it adopts experiential learning at all level, at all time. And experiential learning can be adopted by these four parameters. There can be many more, but yes, these four are quite important ones. First is hands-on experience, hands-on learning, art integration, sports integration, and storytelling pedagogy. Before I take you through all these things, I would like to tell you right now, right here, that these four, out of these four, they are actually very vast topics. They cannot be covered up in 40 minutes. Neither of them. That means a whole lot of research has been done and a lot of work has been done, which cannot be put forward and presented in one go in just 40 minutes of span. But yes, tools can definitely be understood, how it can be implemented in the classroom, what does it mean, and why it should be implemented. At least that can be done, and we are going to try that only. When you see experiential learning, very often I get reminded of Chanakya's saying, one whose knowledge is confined to books and wealth is in possession of others can use neither knowledge nor wealth when the need for them arises. That means the knowledge that cannot be applied and the money that cannot be used up when it is needed, it's useless to have them. If I know a lot of things, but I cannot implement in my daily routine, what is the use of that knowledge? If I have a lot of money, but I cannot spend when I need, then that wealth is also useless. So Chanakya's this statement is more or less indicating towards experiential learning. What is experiential learning? From where has it come up? Dear teachers, experiential learning is mostly utilized in Finland's policy, education policy, which globally has been adopted and utilized. From Finland, it has come to UK to US, and now we are talking about it in India. Learning is a process where knowledge is created through transformation of experience. Now, this is the whole soul of experiential learning. And the idea of experiential learning was given by Kolb. Kolb stated that knowledge can be created, but it has to be experiential. It has to be experienced. It need not be learned and omitted. So the whole system of education has a change. Now, what experiential learning is, what it is not, and what will it lead to? It's basically a pedagogy which is mostly centered towards learner. Learner controls the whole flow of the session, flow of the concept. It definitely accelerates the thinking, it triggers evaluation and constructs learning. Learning experience in experiential learning is mostly collaborative and links the theory to the practical. Whatever you are teaching in the class, if it is applicable to the practicals, applicable to the hands-on experience of the child, then it is experiential learning. What is not? There's a myth, there's a way of thought going on that if you are doing a lot of activities, it is part of experiential learning. My dear teachers, it is absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. conducting a lot of activities with no motive is not an experiential learning. Field trip without any learning experience, you took out children for a movie and came back to school, and you did not had any of the learning outcome, that is definitely waste of time and doesn't have experiential learning at all. Using a lot of expensive resources and simply watching a video is not at all experiential learning. If you are following the track of experiential learning, it will definitely keep the learner in active mode. The child will be very, very active and there will be deep learning. There has to be, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Yes, yes,
No. Thank you so much. Thank you. And this type of learning experience is basically very conducive. It creates an environment, it has its own ecosystem. When you transform your whole of the teaching style into an experiential learning format, there is a soul in the classroom of learning. There is helping hand extended towards each other. All of the learners work collaboratively, so the environment becomes very learner conducive. It increases team spirit and collaboration because most of the experiential learning has teamwork in it. Now coming to the Skol's learning cycle. Let's imagine there's that I show a picture of a bicycle and I tell a child of age around 9, 10, 11 that this is the seat, this is the handle, this is the brake, this is how the chain moves, this is the pedal, and so on and so forth. The whole description goes, and then I say that someone will just climb up on the seat and will start riding the cycle, will start moving with the cycle. Will that child learn how to ride a cycle? Does this description give him an idea how a cycle is cycle moves? Will he be able to ride a cycle?
No, he can't.
Certainly not. Certainly not. Because until and unless the child does all this himself, that description doesn't have any sense. And that is the essence of experiential learning. There has to be, we all have seen children growing up, isn't it? When they learn walking, when they learn any new thing, they start doing it, they commit mistake, again they improvise their process, and again they have that experience. If a child is walking, learning to how to walk, definitely that child is going to fall at certain times. He will again get up, he'll again walk for a few steps, will see how to climb up a stair, and so on and so forth. And ultimately the child learns how to walk. So that was the idea of Kolb, which stated that experience is important. Once the learner is having an experience, that child is going to reflect upon it, how it was, whether there was any flaw, I need to modify certain things. So from experience, the child has moved towards reflection. From reflection, once he has those idea that I need to improvise, how to take the step, how to move up the seat, how to move the pedal, and then again he writes, that means he is now conceptualizing the things, how to do it in a better way, how to walk in a better way without falling, how to ride a cycle in a better way so that I don't fall. And again that child with the improvised skill set, he is again having the experience of moving. So there's a cycle: experience, reflect, conceptualize, again experiment, experience, reflect, and so on. The things get modified, the times the child is doing it. As many times the child does it, it gets more and more modified, more and more polished. So that was the idea of Kolb. That means until and unless the child does it himself or herself, he's not going to learn anything new. Now, if we want experiential learning in our classroom. What are the tools? I will be focusing on these 10 tools. Apart from these 10 tools, you can see some of them in some places mentioned with few more, but I don't find them that they are very useful in the classrooms. The first one is field trip. Teachers, there are many places where we can take our children, and now though things are becoming so very conducive now, things are changing again for the better, that the whole of the setup, educational setup, is again coming on the track. So definitely we can have our school trips again. Where can they go? The first picture you can see, it's National Measurement Institute of India. When the child sees himself, what is the standard for measurement? All this gives them a very clear idea of why we are using certain units in physics and why not others. Next one is National Science Center. National Science Center has so many concepts in different ways. When they see themselves, then when they have the experience of watching them and doing them themselves, it gives them altogether a new idea of those concepts of application. Field survey and case study. Field survey, suppose I teach, there are different types of flowers according to biology. There are different types of flowers, their arrangement of petals are different, their way of reproduction is different. In that way, definitely they need theoretical knowledge. I do not deny that. But at the same time, if they do it in the field survey, when they are themselves classifying the plants, when they are observing the flowers themselves, that gives altogether a different idea. But in both these tools, one thing is primarily very important, and that is we need to have a reflection after the survey or after the trip. Going to the trip and coming back is not sufficing the purpose of experiential learning. You need to be ready with either a questionnaire or a report or any reflection that you can take up from children. At least 10 questions. What did you saw? What was the experience? Did you see this? How was this moving? So that they reflect upon what they have done. So that is the major part of these two. Second is narratives. Teachers, narratives are basically great stories. They are very lively. They can engage your students very nicely. And in the smaller classes, it works wonder. I have given a very small example of carbon over here. When I take carbon, I tell them, when I teach carbon and bonding, I always tell them to feel themselves as carbon who has valency of 4 and they need 4 more electrons. What you can think, how you can get those 4 electrons. Think from the perspective of carbon. And slowly and steadily, they start forming bonds with their friends to get the valency completed, to get the octet completed. So this is a great way of doing it, and they never forget it. That's very important because there's a sense of deep learning in it. Next one is scientific paper. Teachers, this is a very calculative thing, I would say. Major reason for it is you show a small little clip or a small little experiment or small little visuals, and then you tell them to do a paper. This paper has a lot of, I would say, a lot of concept involved in it. You can also tell them to frame questions related to that particular experiment. So scientific paper has importance, but it is less in use. But yes, in the times to come, you can use it. Storytelling. It's now a hot cake in the market. Storytelling was utilized mostly in literature, isn't it? And it was said to be If you extend storytelling, it can cover SST. But yes, science is also a perfectly reasonable place for for utilizing storytelling tool. When I start with radioactivity, I show them this picture. Can anyone tell me who is she? If we know? Anyone?
Maria Curie.
Couldn't get it, so sorry, ma'am.
Madam Maria Curie.
Yes, Madam Curie. So I tell them the story. Sometimes, the story might not be very real, might not be the way it has happened, but yes, you can relate it. As in smaller classes, when they study about Madam Curie in general studies or in science, start the class with a story. In that case, what kind of story? Suppose there was a lady who was doing science, who was a scientist, and later on she kept on working for long hours. She had a element, she kept it in a photographic film, and she forgot about it. Later on, when she found out in the drawer, she saw some lines on the photographic film. In this way, they never forget the phenomenon, the science behind that. The second one is Archimedes. This children enjoy like anything. Archimedes, the flotation law was very beautifully explained, can be very beautifully explained in the class, so that they never forget the upthrust. Next is, can anyone tell me who is he?
Mendel.
Who is Gregor
Archimedes.
George? No, Gregor George Mendel, father of genetics. So he is also having a very interesting story, which says that his work was published after 50 years of his death. So he was that ahead of his time. All these stories connect very well with the concepts, right? And when we start the concept with the story, very small little stories, but yes, the point is there has to be 2-3 things in the story. You need to weave it earlier so that you know where to focus. Secondly, you need to have that voice modulation so that your class remains connected. You should know where to pause so that the essence of that story and the meaning is not lost. And nowadays, there are beautiful ways of creating stories. The stories can be easily created by comic strips. So that also I keep on doing. I just give them a small little topic and I tell them to weave a story in the form of comic strip. It hardly takes 5-7 minutes for them to do it. So this is also a very beautiful way of doing it.
Ma'am, you are audible.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
Next is,
yes.
okay, thank you so much. Next is experiments. This is not new to science teachers, isn't it? You just name a concept and experiment can be done with it. So the first one you can see in the baking soda, vinegar has been added. So all these small things actually work wonders for children, and these become part of their magical science. So most of the topics in science can be covered with the help of experiment. And believe me, if we do it with the help of experiment, the